My name is Sally, and I live with my husband, Mark, and our 5-year-old daughter. I'm 31 years old and work full-time. We're not rich or poor, just a normal, close-knit family. Everything changed when a storm named Victoria hit our lives. Mark's mother lost her husband, Pat, and had been living alone since then. At the start of our marriage, Mark and I agreed not to live with her, which worked out well for everyone. Mark is her only son, and she had him late in life. After 5 years of our marriage, she had gotten older, and living alone was becoming hard and dangerous for her. Mark would visit her, but it was clear it was difficult for him to handle everything on his own. Watching him struggle, I decided it was time for her to move in with us. My husband was working hard, and I wanted to support him. So I gathered my courage and told him about my decision. He was surprised and unsure at first, and honestly, so was I. But I knew we needed to do something. I told him I wouldn't be able to do much since I still had to take care of our daughter, the house chores, and my job. If anything happened to his mom, he would be the one responsible. We talked about it a lot and finally agreed to bring her into our home. When she moved in, she thanked me with tears in her eyes on a beautiful spring day when cherry blossoms were in bloom. Seeing how grateful she was, I thought we would live happily together. At first, she was kind and respectful, but as time passed, her true nature showed. She started to bully me, and I realized I had made a mistake in my decision. Unfortunately, things had become too difficult for me to handle. When I did as I was told, she complained. "Why did you make it so tasteless? Are you mocking me? How rude." This was just the beginning. "Oh, my clothes must be washed by hand. The washing machine will ruin them. They're all high quality," she said. When I suggested taking them to the dry cleaner, she responded, "What a waste of money. You're living off my son's income. You should think more about saving." She could have easily paid for the dry cleaning herself, but she didn't seem to care. I realized she was just trying to harass me, especially since she smirked the whole time. But that was only the beginning. Things got worse. "Sally, do you wear makeup? It doesn't seem to help much," she said. "You're plain to start with. My granddaughter is lucky she takes after my son, who looks like me. She has a bright future." She would wake up at 4 a.m. to put on makeup for over 2 hours. Afterward, she looked completely different. I could respect her desire to stay beautiful, but her foundation was too light for her skin, making her look like a geisha, and her cheeks were oddly red. On top of that, I struggled to clean her bright red lipstick off the cups. Even though I knew it was rude to criticize someone's appearance, I stayed quiet. What really upset me was when she threw away my precious makeup set. When I got home from work, the whole thing was gone. I asked her why she had thrown it away. She sneered at me, saying, "I've told you before, that makeup doesn't work on your ugly face. Don't waste money on useless things. Save it. From now on, no more makeup. Aren't I so caring for this family? You better appreciate me." If I could, I would have screamed in the mountains, letting my never echo back at her. But I wasn't in the mountains, and she only bullied me when we were alone. When Mark was at work and our daughter was in preschool, I hesitated to complain to Mark about his mother, but I still wanted him to know what was happening. After much thought, I gently expressed my dissatisfaction, but it didn't help. "I'll talk to her," he said, but when he did, she denied everything in tears, even claiming I was trying to frame her. Mark was confused and didn't know what to do, and I could only roll my eyes in frustration. If she wouldn't admit to her actions, I needed a plan. I decided to secretly record our interactions and show them to Mark. While I was figuring out where to hide a camera, her bullying escalated. She had moved in during spring, and after a hot summer and autumn, winter arrived. One day, Mark was away on a business trip, and our daughter was staying with my parents. It was snowing outside, and I usually drove to work. But I had chains put on my tires and took a taxi that day. After work, I cleaned the house, did the laundry, and cooked dinner. Let me emphasize, it was the dead of winter, and snow was piling up outside. It was definitely not the time to wash clothes by hand. Despite this, Victoria handed me a pile of her laundry with a grin and said, "Here's my laundry. These are expensive clothes, so you must wash them by hand," she repeated, knowing I wouldn't like it. "I'll wash them in warm water," I replied. "No, you can't. The colors will fade and you'll damage the fabric. You must wash them in cold water the whole time." I was losing my patience. It was snowing outside, and I thought, are you kidding me? Why should I use cold water on this freezing night? If you care so much, do it yourself. I finally yelled at her. If you care so much, do it yourself. How dare you? I'm elderly and you're seriously suggesting I wash these in cold water myself. I want to ask if you're serious. I am always serious, I shot back. Her face turned red with anger. She wasn't expecting me to talk back. I wasn't backing down either. Why don't you go outside and check for yourself? You've been warm inside all day, so you don't realize, do you? It's snowing a lot and unbelievably cold out. The hell? You're telling me to go out in a cold? You're terrible. What about you? You demand that I use cold water in this freezing weather. We argued back and forth. I was determined to stand my ground. I felt bad for Mark, but I couldn't continue to be a good wife if I had to keep living with her. I was glaring at her when she suddenly grabbed my hand tightly and dragged me. I was shocked by her strength, which made me question her age. Before I knew it, she had pushed me out the front door. As I stood there, realizing what had just happened, I heard the door lock behind me. "No me for a daughter-in-law like you. Get lost," she shouted. "This is my house. You're the one who should leave." I screamed, but it was useless. She was determined to lock me out, ignoring my banging on the door. I was in distress, not sure what to do next. I wasn't wearing a coat, and I didn't have my daughter with me. Thankfully, my phone was in my pocket. I called Victoria, but even though I could hear her phone ringing inside, she didn't answer. I tried calling Mark, who was supposed to return from his trip that night, but he didn't pick up either. I had no choice but to text him. "I got locked out of the house by your mom. I'll get hypothermia in the snow. I'll wait for you at a diner nearby." With that, I started walking in the snow. I thought about calling 911, but I didn't want to make a big scene. I was sure Victoria would make up some excuse to make me look bad. It seemed better to just wait at a diner. I wrapped my arms around my freezing body, my breath forming clouds in the cold air. The snow kept falling, piling up on the ground. There were no cars or bikes passing by. It was nighttime, and the streets were empty. I kept moving forward through the quiet darkness. When I finally reached the diner, I couldn't believe my eyes. Closed due to the snowstorm. The place I had hoped to find refuge in was closed. What a night. I decided to head to the police station instead. Rather than calling and waiting for them to come, I kept walking, feeling a sense of despair as the snow fell heavily around me. The tips of my fingers and toes were going numb. When I checked the time on my phone, I realized it had been an hour since I'd been thrown out. I tried calling Victoria again, but she still didn't answer. As I walked briskly through the transformed landscape, I suddenly stopped. I thought I heard something. I realized I was at the beginning of a bridge that crossed over a river. I listened carefully. "Help?" I heard it clearly this time. I ran toward the voice and looked down from the bridge, which wasn't very high. To my surprise, I saw someone, an old lady, lying in a shallow part of the river, calling for help. I ran down the bank as fast as I could and into the river. The icy water pierced my feet and legs, turning the coldness into pain, but I kept moving toward her. "Are you all right?" I asked. "Help me, I can't move. I'm so cold," she replied weakly. "Stay with me," I said, trying to keep her awake. She must have been relieved to find help because she leaned against me and then passed out. I panicked. My feet and legs were frozen and I couldn't move as I wanted to. "Someone help us," I cried up desperately. Just when I thought my calls would go unanswered, I heard a man's voice. "Oh my God, are you okay?" Then I saw Mark rushing toward me. The moment I saw him, I lost consciousness. When I opened my eyes again, I saw a white ceiling. "Honey, are you awake?" Mark's concerned face hovered over me. He told me I was in the hospital. After he pulled the old lady and me out of the river, he called 911. It had been the night before, and I had been sleeping since then. "Your business trip?" I asked. "When you called me, I was still on the plane. I called you back as soon as I landed, but you didn't pick up. There was a long line for a taxi, so I took a train and was just walking back when I saw you going into the river." "What luck," I said, relieved. "I panicked, thinking you were trying to throw yourself into the river," he admitted. "Well, it seems the old lady did, though. Mark told me she had tried to commit suicide because she was depressed about her life. When she hit the freezing water, the shock brought her back to her senses and she tried to get out, but her body was so cold and frozen that she couldn't move. If she hadn't been found when she was, she might not have made it. Knowing she survived brought me some relief, and I began to feel drowsy again. Sleep, you must be exhausted. Take a good rest, Mark said gently. His kind words, along with the warmth of the hospital room, reassured me, and I slowly drifted off to sleep. Despite my anger at Victoria, I stayed in the hospital for a few days, recovering my strength. When I finally returned home, I froze at the front door, dreading what I might find. Victoria hadn't shown her face once while I was in the hospital, and of course, she hadn't apologized. She had locked me out in the snow and nearly killed me. I knew I couldn't live with her anymore. With a heavy heart, I opened the front door. As soon as I stepped inside, I was shocked to see Victoria standing there. "I'm very sorry, Sally," she said, her voice catching me by surprise. "Pardon me?" I asked, stunned. She continued, "I didn't imagine things would turn out like that. I sincerely regret losing my temper and kicking you out. Please forgive me," she begged, tears in her eyes. I couldn't believe it. She had always been so condescending, always looking down on me. No matter what, she had locked me out in the snow. I was deeply skeptical. It seemed too crazy to believe there wasn't a catch. I looked at her with suspicious eyes. "What would you do if I said I can't forgive you?" I asked. Victoria flinched a little. "I thought you were going to freeze from the cold," and then I cut her off. "Are you telling me you didn't know what could happen if someone was locked out in a heavy snowfall?" "If you say you didn't know, does that mean you're crazy?" Her face turned red as my words sank in. "What did you say?" Victoria shouted. "Just because I apologize, you're trying to take advantage of me? How dare you?" She continued angrily. "Mark said he'd end our living arrangement if I didn't apologize to you, so I had no choice but to obey him. Do you get it? I did what I was told, so it's over now. Get to your chores if you understood." She had taken my little provocation easily, revealing her true intentions. There was no real remorse, just as I expected. People don't change overnight, and someone like her probably never will. As if to prove my point, she started bullying me again right away. "You must wash my clothes in cold water," she demanded. "You must cook only my favorite meals. If it's bad, I'll throw it out." Oh no, there was no saving grace for her. I sighed loudly and turned my face away, thinking, "Honey, what should I do now?" Just then, Mark appeared, standing a short distance away, just out of Victoria's sight. He had been there since the beginning, listening. "Mark, what about your work?" Victoria asked, surprised to see him. "I took the day off to be with Sally," he replied. "Anyway, you're not sorry at all, are you?" "Oh no. That was just a joke, of course." Victoria tried to cover up her behavior, but it was clear she didn't mean it. "If it was a joke, it wasn't funny at all," Mark said sternly. "I told you to be deeply remorseful for what you did, apologize to her, and never do anything like that again." "I did apologize, didn't I?" Victoria snapped back, trying to defend herself. "It was just a little joke." "It was a very bad joke," Mark responded, clearly not amused. I had told Mark to stay back and observe, knowing Victoria would reveal her true self. She reacted exactly as I expected, maybe even worse. I couldn't help but laugh at her desperate excuses. "What are you laughing at, Sally? You know you're—" "Hey Mom, I'm talking to you right now." "Listen to me," Mark interrupted, his tone firm. Victoria was shocked, her tears flowing as she realized her son was truly upset with her. "How can you treat Sally so terribly? She was worried about you and agreed to have you live with us." I was a little out of line earlier, but I never bullied her. Victoria tried to deny it, still attempting to shift the blame. "I just commented on her cooking a few times because I wanted her to know my tastes. I told her to take my clothes to the dry cleaner, but she said it was a waste of money and wanted to wash them herself. And when I suggested she wear makeup, she didn't listen and even threw her cosmetics away in front of me." Victoria was grasping at straws, but Mark wasn't buying any of it. I sometimes wondered if she was being sarcastic. It seemed like she didn't want to take any responsibility for what she had done. I had no choice but to take out my phone and play back the recording. "Those are expensive clothes, so you must wash them by hand," her voice played clearly. Victoria screamed and tried to grab my phone, but I dodged her and kept playing the recording. "You must wash them in cold water. No need for a daughter-in-law like you. Get lost." The recording continued, including the sound of her dragging me out and locking the door, ignoring my calls to her. of the abuse he said and did that day was recorded, I said calmly. I had my phone in my pocket and recorded every conversation we had, just to keep evidence. Victoria was clearly agitated. Do you have any last words? I asked her. Last words? What do you mean? She replied, confused. This is the end, I said firmly. You trampled on my kindness. I want you out of the house. No more contact. You can live alone. You still have the money from selling your house and your pension. You'll be fine without my support. Wait a minute, Mark. Are you going to throw me out? Are you betraying your only parent? She pleaded. You betrayed me, Mark responded, his anger clear. Victoria was speechless, slumping her shoulders in defeat. The silence was broken only by the sound of melting snow falling from the roof. Everything happened quickly after that. Mark and I packed up Victoria's belongings while she sat there, doing nothing. Her hometown was 2 hours away by car, where she had some relatives, though I doubted they would pay much attention to her now. She had no friends, as she never went out when she lived with us. I guess she had too much time on her hands, which she used to bully me. But none of that mattered anymore. Bye-bye, Grandma. Our daughter waved as Victoria left. Victoria finally started to cry when she saw her lovely granddaughter smiling at her. The taxi drove off, leaving her behind. I felt nothing, just relief. Days and months passed. Victoria was living alone and lonely. Sometimes she called to let us know she was okay, but as I promised, we never met or spoke with her again. She continued to live alone and lonely. The cost of destroying our happiness was high, but I finally found peace of mind after Victoria left. Now I'm enjoying a quiet moment while serving a surprise visitor. The sound of the washing machine spinning is calming. My guest is the elderly woman I saved on that snowy day. After living alone for a while, she became depressed, but the icy river water made her want to live a little longer. She told me that my son had invited her to move in with his family, which was great news. She decided instead to move closer to them, as she didn't want to be a burden. She shared, "My son lives far away, and I haven't seen him much. Since my husband passed away, I've been alone and thought nothing good would come from leaving. But now I know it doesn't have to be that way. I'm very happy to hear that. As long as I'm alive, I'll keep going. I'm so grateful to you for rescuing me that day." We smiled at each other, knowing that the old lady had endured a long and lonely life but found happiness again. Victoria had disrupted her own family life, and there are many ways to spend retirement. Everyone's path is different, but your attitude can make it either happy or unhappy. Looking at the two elderly women, I get a sense of what I want my future to be like. I remind myself to live in a way that keeps my life peaceful and happy, both now and in retirement.